This is the journey to one Africa. Hey everybody, this is Mika and welcome back to SNOA. Guys, if you're new to this family, please don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification button. You can like, also follow us on social media, all the links in the description. But also you can support us through different links in the description. Super chat, super sticker, super thanks, membership, Patreon. That's the way to stand and to support the work we are doing. Guys, we have, we're going to talk a little bit about the 13 years of Gaddafi's legacy. Until this time, like right now, since Gaddafi was killed, it has been 13 years. And these are kind of like few things that you should know about Gaddafi and what is going on right now in Libya. 13 years after the death of Muammar Gaddafi, Libya continues to grapple with the repercussion of his rule and subsequent political vacuum. Here is a summary based on various perspectives and observation from that period. Political and social division. Libya remains severely divided with rival governments, one in the east, Tobruk, supported by the House of Representatives, and another in the west, Tripoli, recognized by the UN. Armed militias and external influences from regional powers and international actors contribute to the ongoing instability, often vying for control over Libya's oil resources. Despite ceasefires such as the one in 2020, the country struggles with militia conflicts, poverty, and governance issues. Economic impact. Under Gaddafi, Libya enjoyed significant economic development due to oil revenues, which funded public services like free healthcare, education, and even electricity for some citizens. However, his vision for economic independence, which included proposals like a gold-backed currency, was seen by some of the threat to global financial system, potentially contributing to international discontent towards his regime. Nostalgia versus criticism. There's a notable divide in public sentiment. Some Libyans look back on Gaddafi's eras with nostalgia, citing better living conditions, security, and infrastructure development. They remember a time when Libya had one of Africa's highest standard of living. Conversely, others highlighting his autocratic rule, suppression of dissent, and involvement in international terrorism, arguing these elements sowed the seed for Libya's current chaos. International perspective. Global reviews on Gaddafi's legacy differ, while some in the West and among his critics in Libya focus on his dictatorial method and human rights abuses. Others, especially in part of Africa, remember him for his Pan-African initiatives, support for anti-imperialist movement, and effort towards African unity. His death was mourned by some of the loss of African independence. Security and human rights. The post-Gaddafi era has been marked by a significant decline in security, leading to the rise of groups like ISIS, at one point widespread human trafficking, and the flow of arms that destabilized neighboring regions. Critics argue that Gaddafi's policies, like aiming civilians during the uprising, contributed to this arms proliferation. Culture and social legacy. Gaddafi's rule left a complex legacy where his cult of personality and unique government method, Jamahiriya, aimed at direct democracy but ended up centralizing power. His initiative, like the Great Man-Made River Project, are still seen as a monumental achievement, yet they are overshadowed by the authoritarian nature of his regime. Future prospects. The debate on whether Libya would be better off if Gaddafi had remained in power continues. Some believe his removal opened a Pandora's box of tribal, regional, and ideological conflicts without clear resolution. Others see his ouster as necessary for potential democratic reform, albeit acknowledging the severe growing pains Libya is experiencing. In essence, Gaddafi's legacy 13 years after his death is tapestry of economic achievement, political oppression, and a vision of African unity against a backdrop of personal rule and international deficiency. Libya's path forward remain uncertain, caught between nostalgia for stability and the authoritarianism and the turbulent quest for a new democratic identity amidst chaos. All right, guys. So one of the statement that was made by Barack Obama, because we all know 13 years ago Barack Obama was in power and he was the one who actually killed Gaddafi. He was interviewed later on after his regime that what are some of the mistakes or some of the things that he regretted to ever do, and he said he regretted killing Gaddafi. You know, because Obama actually, he was pretty close friend with Gaddafi, you know, and eventually they actually kind of like departed ways, and Obama, NATO, in general. And these are not conspiracy theories, are not things that I'm just making up. You can actually search online and read, and you could see this news that they're the one who actually killed him live on a broad daylight. Everybody was watching. I remember 13 years ago, I was not this old, but I've seen it and I saw it as, you know, he was killed live on the television. It was such a chaotic event. You know, I was listening to the speech that was made by Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the president of Uganda. We actually shared here on our channel. And he was talking about how African leaders were summoned not to go to Libya, because some of them, they wanted to actually oppose it, but all of them, they were summoned and they were threatened that whoever is going to go there, they're gonna face repercussion and consequences of doing so. So even the African Union that is supposed to be there to stand with Libya, to stand with Muammar Gaddafi, they were not able to do anything. Why? Because international bodies, led by USA, they already decided to take him down. Why? Because of our authoritarian government. They say because of human rights abuse, which is very hypocritical, because one of the biggest human rights abusers in the whole entire world is USA. And I'm not talking about the people, but I'm talking about the policies of the government and what they do around the world. Right now, 13 years later, I've actually spoken about Muammar Gaddafi here. You can find those videos, like, you know, down there. I've spoken on how Libya was better off with Muammar Gaddafi at that time, how many people were actually they were actually survived. For example, if you just get married, you are actually giving some certain amount of money to start off your life, all right? And there's a lot of things were given, you know, healthcare, you know, electricity. And, you know, because of the oil that Libya has, every single person was actually receiving some part of the some portion of the money coming from the oil, like every single month, right? There's a lot of things were going on, a lot of beautiful things. People were having housing. You know, Libya was one of the few countries in Africa that people were living better off life. Here in Africa, Libya was one of it. But right now, you cannot see the same thing and you cannot say the same thing, because things have gotten so much worse because of killing of Muammar Gaddafi. 13 years later, we're here and things are not really well. Things are not moving good. This is 13 years later, guys. Can you imagine that? 13 years later, people are still struggling. There's nothing that they can do. So 13 years later right now, you see where Libya is at. You see how they're struggling. You see you know, what kind of life they're living, because, you know, the aftermath of what happened in Libya was none of their concern, right? Those who killed Muammar Gaddafi, it's out of their concern. They don't care about Libya. They don't care what is going to happen in Libya. What they care about is only about their intention and their succession. You guys, you remember that one of the biggest plan of Muammar Gaddafi was to bring about African currency, basically to bring the currency that will be backed by oil and gold, and that was one of the mega plan by Libya, basically by Muammar Gaddafi. And Libya was the only country that was supporting African Union. Only country that was giving and donating a lot of money to African Union. Why? Because this guy believed in a Pan-Africanism, believed in the Africa's unity. A lot of countries in Africa, they don't do the same thing. Right now, majority of the support of African Union is coming from European Union and USA and some other European countries. But back then, Libya was one of the countries that was funding it. So basically, I remember even when Muammar Gaddafi used to be a chairman of AU, this was kind of the plan that was actually in motion to able to be done. This was not this guy who believed in Libya, but he believed in Africa, and he was ready to fight and to do everything he can for the continent of Africa and for Africans. But, you know, since he was taken down, everybody got really scared. Nobody, you see them up front fighting for the Africa's unity. I would remember he came, you know, the president, ex-president of Tanzania, John Pombe Magufuli, was actually fighting for that, but also he's gone right now. So everybody who stand up for the African unity, you know what happens to them. So after 13 years of Gaddafi's death, Libya is not in the same place it used to be. And it is sad because people are struggling, people are suffering. Human rights abuses has actually went really high. They say, you know, that guy was abusing rights of the people, but the people knows for real that they were better off with him than anybody else. The life after Muammar Gaddafi is worse. And I think that is what gives them joy to see Africans suffering, Africans struggling. That's what they need to see. That's what they have to see. If Africa is prospering, if African countries are prospering, they will try to do everything they can to take down. They will try everything they can to stop that from happening. Well, Africa would deserve better. And I think it's the time. We don't just need one person to be like Muammar Gaddafi. We need every single person to be Muammar Gaddafi. And what I mean is this, man, I don't agree with everything that Muammar Gaddafi did, but I agree with how he cared for his people, what he did for his people. I care about where Libya used to be. Okay, Libya was in the better place than the way it is right now. Nobody can argue that. Nobody can say no to that. Everybody knows it is true. It's the fact. All right, so I care about the people of Libya and what kind of life they lived then 13 years ago and what kind of life they're living today. You know, you cannot compare. So, guys, I don't know. Please let me know in the comment section. What do you think? What do you think is the legacy of Muammar Gaddafi? Let me know in the comment section. And I really enjoy reading your comments. So, yeah, let's get right into it.